Welcome to Starfleet Universe On Call. I am Paul Franz, owner of Franz Games. I run SFU Online, FedCom Online, and Starfleet Warlord. Just remind how join us for a talkcast every Thursday night starting at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can either call on the phone to dial 605-562-0444. Just follow the directions. The call ID is 17702. Or you can participate on the web. Just go to the TalkShoe website at www.talkshoe.com and search for call ID 17702. But if you want the best online experience, you want to go to twitch.tv, twitch.tv/SFU on call, and you will find us there. You'll find the chat room. It will be a lovely evening together. And of course, if you need to contact me for any reason, my email address is sfuoncall@gmail.com. That's sfuoncall@gmail.com. Also, you want to follow me on Twitter. I have multiple accounts. You can follow the podcast account, which is SFU On Call, or the personal account, which is Paul Franz. And also, there is Franz Games. The reminder that Franz is spelled F-R-A-N-Z. There is no T in that. So, moving onward and forward, this lovely talkcast gets to the podcast available on iTunes and various other feeds around the net. Quick news from A to B this week. Steve Petrick, again, has just been working on the Orion MSSB, Master Starship book. Steve has not been doing that much as of late. At least he has not posted what he's been doing as of late. Let's be plain about that. And this week on Found on the online store, you have Starfleet Marines Last Stand, $35.95. It's the second module in the series. Ground combat in the Starfleet universe. Each counter is a squad. Adds new rules for external passengers, outposts, fighting your way into bases, new units, ground weapons vehicles, heavy shuttles, and ground bombardment shuttles, new terrain, cliffs, depressions, higher hills, and also 11 new scenarios. This module includes 560 new counters, including the Romulan armor and Hydran infantry. This rulebook is updated and expanded from Assault, i.e. the second module. So when it comes to the rules, you can just get the second module, but you don't get the maps. You don't get the additional maps. You don't get the additional counters. You don't get the additional scenarios. So there is a reason to buy actually both modules. So the only difference is that you don't. The only thing that is going to be pretty much almost duplicate, which is the rule book. But I think for all the other things that are in there, I think it's worth the cost. And also, it doesn't help you to have a second copy of the rule book. And moving on to the SOP Online tournament of currently, which is the Sapphire Star 16 tournament. We have 6 out of 8 games are completed in round 1. My game is yet to be completed, even though we have reached turn 8. My ship is now kind of no worse for wear. It's definitely got some damage. Got like 7 internals. Got 2 shields down, and I have not done nearly as much damage to him. But hopefully I will be able to make up for some of that this upcoming turns. If I do this right, I can possibly pull it out. It's going to be a rough one, but we'll just have to wait and see. Moving onward and forward to the library report, there's nothing to be said there. No updates either in the SFU library or in the FedCom library for this week. So with that is the news for this week. And it's me, it's the one old Paul Friends, welcoming you to Starfleet Universe On Call. And tonight, we got Gary. Say hi, Gary.
Hi, Gary.
And we have Doug with a new microphone.
Yay.
Can you be careful where you're going? Sorry, there's any... Made a little bit of a mess here. Oh, but
I really
anyhow.
do my It's just a used different one.
A better one. Let's go there, and
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
because definitely
I
it
wouldn't
is.
want anybody to think I got all rich all of a sudden and could afford a new one.
No, no, no.
Ah.
Understood. But anyhow, let's see. Okay. I know Russ was actually in the chat room on the talk show. So yes, Russ. Again, thank you. Without Russ, it would be a lot harder to go through all the space monsters. Um, I can still do it. I still get all the rules. It's just that means it would take me a lot more time to do it and get organized and finding it and so all that kind of thing. And thank you so much again, Russ. This time live. Okay. So this evening, obviously, we're going to be continuing on this journey of the space monsters of Starfleet universe. And tonight, actually, is going to be one that I think a lot of people are familiar with, just like the Planet Killer. That's the one that I think, at least to me, that is the one that I can remember was actually in the original series of Star Trek, which was quite cool. That they wrote up rules for it. Now, how they killed it and how you need to kill it in Starfleet battles, totally different
Although you
possibility.
still have a chance. You still have a chance of killing it with a shuttle.
Right, but if I call correctly, the
It was a spaceship. Yeah.
yes, they actually had another spaceship, another heavy cruiser that actually went into the throat of the Planet Killer and blew up,
Took it out.
and that's
Yeah.
how it took it out.
But they learned about the possibility because the Commodore who had lost his mind drove a shuttle straight into it. He did a suicide shuttle run, which
Mm-hmm.
caused enough damage to it that, Mr. Spock picked up, hey, that caused a big fluctuation in power, blah, blah, blah. And
Right.
did a little math and said, hey, math is fun. I think we could do this with the ship. And they used the derelict ship with lots of drama and the legendary captains just getting away at the last second.
But of
Sorry if
course,
I spoiled that for anybody.
well,
But
here,
well, and some of the other monsters I think they got from other source material.
right.
Like
Agreed there. I agree there. Um, don't mind me.
like the animated series.
Mhm.
So
I never. That's one thing I never have watched. Never did watch the animated series.
I watched them as a kid. I haven't watched them since.
Yeah, when it comes to it, I
But
saw. The only thing I can say is I saw. I remember watching a clip of the animated series. That's about all I can say.
oh, you should watch it. If I had to
Now,
watch it, you could watch it.
do do do.
That's where
There.
they had the Kazini in it.
Mm-hmm.
You got the Z in there.
Okay. Okay, and there. Don't mind me. One thing I'm doing is doing something which, according to Russ, I don't have, but I do. That's where it is. At least,
While
I
we
don't,
were doing that, just
As it
a quick
happens,
plug.
the original series, the animated series, is actually the reason why they've been able to actually bring back the animated series versions into Star Trek Lower Decks. Because one of the crew members aboard the Cerritos is Kazin, like the battier kind of Kazin, rather than the cassier Kazinti that we have in the Starfleet universe.
oh, cool. And this, for those interested, When I was talking about SSDs for the Space Dragon, um, this is what I'm talking about. This is actually part of the client. This is the Ancient Space Dragon. There's actually multiple Space Dragons that are available to play. We got the ancient, we got the old, we got the adult, we got the young, and of course we have if you see, we actually have multiple monsters. We got the amoeba, the cosmic cloud, the mine monster, the moray eel, and the planet crusher, which are all part of. Okay, let's move this off over here, and just add that. I'm just say monster.
Are they all part of the captain's game? Or is it random which one you get?
I have to check the captain's game. I think they choose like 3 different monsters.
Okay, because that's kind of coming up on Saturday.
Yep. Oh, understood. There's. Okay.
If anybody near Harrisburg wants to participate.
Yep.
Gamers of Winter is this weekend. Not next weekend, this weekend.
Yeah. Maybe. Oh, I bet you I know. With the Planet Killer, it didn't need SSD, but
it does have a chip card though.
What's that?
It does have a chip card in Federation 20.
Oh yeah, in FedCon, yeah. I'm talking about the client. I just wanted to.
Well, does the FedCon version of the client have any space monsters?
Has a few monsters. That's one thing I really need to check, which is how many monsters are actually available in Federation Commander.
Well, they just added the Banshees to Combat Attack, so that's one more monster to consider.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I got the whole collection over there for those online or watching the video. I'm pointing over to my right hand side. But yeah, here here's the young dragon, because the reason why I actually have SSDs for them is because they actually have a damage allocation. They have a damage allocator. You actually have to roll to see where you hit on the dragon itself. So, okay, I'm series on the DVD, but it's been Ross says he has the anime series on DVD, but hasn't been watched for a while. Some interesting stuff for a kids show, quote unquote. So, what is it, goofball? Oh, I love you. Okay, but so as unlike some of the other monsters, that's weird. Okay, let me do this. I'm just going to quit out of the client so I can. Oh, let me move that. I don't want you knocking that off. My water bottle. But anyway, yeah. The Space Dragon actually has SSD. And in the rules, they just have a chart where the body is, for a young, it's 25, adult 70, old 100, ancient 200. So it gets more and more. And then you have a simple damage allocation chart down here where it's body, body is 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 3 or 4 wings, 5 tail, 6 claws. So it actually allows you to do that. Yes, ascendant life form originating in uncharted regions toward the galactic core. The space dragons are powerful creatures that can, quote unquote, fly on the ether between the star systems, like the dragons of fantasy. The space dragon subsists by raiding livestock and population centers on inhabited planets. Naturally, the inhabitants of these planets and planets and Starfleet that protects them are somewhat annoyed. Yeah, I'd say yeah. Boom, boom.
Unless they decide to try to clone that dragon and stick an exoskeleton on the back of it and then use it as a flying starship.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea, really great idea.
Enjoy.
Branthans.
Yeah, I mean, what's going to happen? You're going to run into some other guys who are using these space whales as flying ships? That sounds crazy.
It's been done.
Okay. In this is in the scenario, the original scenario where the space dragons were introduced. The objective of the space dragon is to raid the planet. Each turn the space dragon spends in the planet hex without taking any other action, moving or attacking, is considered one turn of ravaging. The dragon does not have to land on the does not have by landing. Okay, let's try this again. The dragon does not have to land by the procedure in P2.4, which I think means going through the atmosphere and that kind of thing. But while ravaging, all fire at it is through an atmosphere. Okay, so it doesn't have to use going through atmosphere's rules, because I think if I recall correctly, in P2.4, I think basically when you enter the planet's atmosphere, you spend one turn. I forget, it's one turn or a number of impulses in the atmosphere before you actually get onto the planet surface, and then you can go there. And the dragons don't have to do that. And there's different sizes depending on the age. And points for ravaging go from 10 to 75. 10 for a young, all the way 75 for an ancient. Dragons do not have SSDs, though we do have them in the client. They use a record system based on the numbers above. Hits against space dragons are not resolved by a DAC, but by the following procedure, which I just specified just a little bit ago. If a given area has reduced to 0 in the next area to the right of the above chart, you go, so like if it runs out of, okay, let's say if it runs out of wings, it goes to the tail. Because I think if you run out of body, it's dead. Okay. If the claws are reduced to 0, score the damage point on the body. So it wraps around too. The maximum speed of a dragon is based on the number of wing units remaining at the start of the turn divided by a speed factor. Okay, that's a speed factor. Okay, here are the speed factors. Young is 1, old 2, old 3, and ancient 5. Ancient starts with 150 wing, and young starts with 20 wing. So, also they have a where is it? BPV. A young is only worth 40 points, adult 100, old 150, and ancient is worth 350. 300 BPV. So, a dragon can change speed after 8 impulses of a previous speed change. Whoa. Okay, maximum speed. Oh, okay. Okay. Just looking at this. A dragon can change the speed after an impulse of the previous increase or decrease by up to 10 points. So it's not like in as a being when it comes to ships where you actually can double your speed. You only can go up to a speed maximum increase of speed 10, which is not that bad. Space dragons, all their weapons are 360. Big surprise because I think that most of them are. Let's look at this. Yeah, they're on the head, except for the claw attacks. Their flame, which is a plasma torpedo, can fire every second turn, and the phasers, with the eyes, which operate phasers, type depending on the age, can fire once per turn. The Space Dragon accumulates a static ionic charge along its hide by flicking its tail, and that, as in cracking a bullwhip, it can direct bursts of charge towards the target. Their tails operate as a defensive system, 5/6 chance of destroying any shuttle or seeking weapon that enters the Dragon Hex. The tail can engage up to 3 targets per impulse, Dragon's Choice, and this defense is resolved after the weapons move into the Dragon's Hex before they score their damage, and the tail ceases to function when it has been reduced to 0. Wow. Let me look at the... What? What? Come here. Come here. Come here. I love you. Just sit. Can you sit? Thank you. The Dragon X has claw attacks. What are you doing? Here, you want to go here? Okay. Are you comfy?
Oh, Space Kitty.
Yes. The local city is being very cute. Yes, you are. Okay. Can I continue reading now? Oh. Yes, I love you. Dragons also has a claw attack. Attacks on the Moray eel chart. Yikes. Against anyone's ship in the single hex using a die roll modifier as shown, depending on the age, directly as internal hits, just like the Moray eel bite chart. And final result, more than 6 is treated as 6, and the final result of less than 1 is treated as 1. The dragon can make only 1 claw attack per turn. Fortunately, claw attacks may be made against ships, bases, shuttles, fighters, PS, other monsters, drones, and other objects, like plasma torpedoes or planets. Oh, adult and old dragons can telepathically identify one seeking weapon within 3 hexes each impulse. Ancients can identify 2 within 5 hexes each impulse, and young dragons can only identify 1 in an adjacent hex. Okay, the dragon's eyes and flame cannot be destroyed except by killing it. Okay. Again, another important point here, which is space dragons have a turn mode of 1 in all cases. Here, go. Seemed like interested in Mima and what she was doing. A dragon can tack, het, sidestep, and otherwise move as a ship. A dragon can be displaced, trapped by web, and placed in stasis. A dragon will detonate mines as size class 3. They use free movement at all times, which is... The funny part about that, obviously, at least to me, is that originally with SFB, free movement was not the standard. You had plotted movement. So, having a dragon that you can basically has free movement, makes things interesting in my mind.
Made a huge difference.
Yep. While most old and ancient space dragons travel alone, young ones, 2 or 3, are always accompanied by an adult, usually their mother. If a direct ship is... I figured they'd have something like this. If a ship is on a direct line between the young dragon and its mother, the mother dragon will immediately move at speed of 3 hexes per impulse to enter the ship's hex and attack it, then resume normal operations. Direct line is defined as being the same hex row between the mother and the baby, or being closer to the baby than the mother at any time that the ship is between the mother and the baby, but not the same row hex. If a young dragon's mother is killed, it will move to the ship's hex. If a young dragon's mother is killed, it will move to the ship's hex, attempting to nurse from mommy, but executing a claw attack during every impulse divisible by 4. Note that the number of claw attacks such by nursing baby dragons an exception to the original rule about claw attacks, and in such case it does not use flames or eye weapons. Dragons cannot be tracted or boarded. Big surprise. If you could board a dragon, that would be weird. Yeah, we're gonna transport you right into the middle of the belly of the dragon.
Good luck. Yeah.
Well, there are, in the case of the Brantodons, what you have to do is, I think there's basically like, when you're assigning damage and so forth, you have to basically see whether it actually goes onto the exoskeleton or onto the dragon part itself.
Right.
And but I do believe that for the Brantodons at least, you can board the exoskeleton.
Right.
And if you capture that, then you're able to use the control interface that's in the exoskeleton to command the dragon ship, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, to me, obviously, space dragons are interesting in that most the space dragon is this scenario in my mind is not it's definitely, as pointed out in the scenario, it's a 2-player scenario. It requires to have a dragon player and a navy player, because unlike some of the previous monsters that we've talked about, they are not as mindless, monsters that are just they have a single goal in mind and that's it. Yes, obviously the dragon has a goal, which is to attack the planet. I think actually, let me check victory conditions. I use standard victory conditions. Award the space dragon the points shown on the chart on SM4 671 for each turn of ravaging, maximum 4 turns. Okay, let me look at that one. This is 6 SM4. Where are you? SH SM5 and SM4 and I thought it was SM4.
While you're doing that, it might be worth noting that even though the original scenario refers to attacking a planet, in universe, it's liable that the dragons are liable to pursue other space creatures, like either Orlando space whales or maybe space wars or some other kind of creatures like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm not too sure whether or not the original scenario actually has a variant that covers that, but it is possible to set up. In fact, interesting enough, there's actually a scenario in Captain's Log 40 where the Brantodons are actually trying to capture a live space dragon because they need a new source of genetic material so they can create new clones. Because the original clones that they were using, they were starting to run into diminishing returns. So, if you clone it over and over and over, what happens then?
Right. It's like a Xerox copy kind of thing.
So, yeah.
Copy.
So, yeah, I was just curious
yeah.
Does the original scenario have a variant where it does talk about hunting other monsters? Although there weren't that many other monsters that had been created for SFB at the time, I guess, the Space Dragon rules were written. So things like Space Wars and Orlando were invented after.
Right.
So I guess that's probably one of those things that might be covered in maybe an update file. Like, how recent issues of Captain's Log have monster articles where they go into more detail in terms of this is what you do with the monster in this setup or with that setup or blah, 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 sort of thing.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, and Russ, you can correct me, I'm pretty sure there are some scenarios where it's basically monsters versus monsters. So don't mind me. And
Well, there is one where I think an Iridani quest ship is hunting a space dragon, and there's another one where it's actually, well, I guess you could use a regular space dragon in it, but it's actually one where the Alunda, like the Alunda host ship rather, is actually basically a sheepdog, and it's shepherding wild Alunda that are basically being, like, they haven't been converted into bioships yet. They're still like regular space whales.
Right.
And a dragon ship shows up to try and kill the space whales so that they can't be turned into ships. But in theory, I can't remember now, I don't have the PDF in front of me, but in principle, I guess you could do a variant where it's an actual live space dragon that is doing the raiding, and then you, as the Alunda sheepdog, is trying to chase them off.
Understood. Yeah. When you started talking about that, I definitely remembered a scenario like that. I remember the herding. That's all I remember. That's the one thing that caught my my memory. But definitely, yeah. And again, the one with where they had to capture a wild space dragon. Which is interesting.
But on a broader note, it actually it is interesting to think about whoever, I can't remember the guy's name, but apparently it was actually even back in the 80s, the guy who first created the Brathidons as a concept, because it took a couple of decades for a suitable place for them to be published in the game universe. But in terms of like basically how he looked at, or he or they rather, I don't know how many of them were doing it, looked at the rules that you just talked about in terms of like what a space dragon does and the different sizes, and then started basically thinking, all right, well, and how do you take that and turn it into a playable faction? Because Brathidon ships, because the dragons are lobotomized, they don't have the innate intelligence to be able to react to things the way that a free space dragon has.
Right.
And also because of the exoskeleton that's on the back of its back basically. On the one hand, it basically includes the systems that you need, like particle phasers and other kind of ship systems and so forth, like labs or whatever, that you needed to be a starship. But on the other hand, its very presence slows up the dragon ship so that it doesn't have the same turn mode anymore.
Right.
So it's a bit more cumbersome.
Right, and also, and since you have this, you actually have a person controlling the dragon, basically guiding the dragon. The reaction time is a lot slower than it would be if the dragon is has it using its innate abilities. The one thing that I don't remember about the Brathidons is there any part where there's a possibility that a controlled dragon, can go wild?
It's they have to constantly reinforce the lobotomization. Otherwise, the creature can go wild.
Okay.
But I think it's like once it reaches a certain threshold, it gets more difficult for it to do that. But apparently it's not impossible to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, one thing that's interesting is that even when they're not lobotomized, there's still certain innate, like subconscious things that go on that require the biology, so to speak, of the creature. For example, instead of fast patrol ships, the Brathidons use these baby dragon ships. They're basically kind of they act almost like dragon PFs, but they can't operate independently because they need a large enough dragon ship to act as its quote unquote mother, because
Right.
its subconscious mental link basically keeps the baby dragon ships functional, even though the baby dragon ships themselves have skeletons, so that they're quote unquote crude. I mean, it's really quite horrible if you think about it. But because at least, like, it's actually, when you think about it, on the one hand, because the Alunda creatures don't have any native intelligence, which doesn't necessarily mean that Peter would approve of what's done with them by the Mern, the creatures, the beings that actually control the Alunda.
Mm-hmm.
But the Brandodons are actually an intelligent species that have to have that intelligence removed from them so that they can basically be treated as dragon ships. So it's a bit of a bit of an ethical one when you think about the nature of them as of action. But no, yeah, it's like, what was I going for? Yeah, so it's like there's still these kind of like things that kind of come through even when the actual native intelligence of the creature has been suppressed.
Right. Understood. Russ just mentioned that he left the Omega scenarios out in the monster book they created. As it gets blurry with wild Alanda, dragons, Branthanons. So yes, there is a couple published scenarios that delve into the critters / cybernetic critters. So just mentioning that, and and as you pointed out, and with the actually this one thing interesting with the Brathanons, sorry, thank you, is in my mind it's almost sad because you have an intelligent creature which you basically lobotomize to make him into a dumb creature. But I understand why they have to do it, because that's the only way they could actually get into space was well, they got into space otherwise, because otherwise I think actually I forget. Actually, I don't remember the story of the Bathalons, whether they captured a space dragon while they were on the planet, or they actually had to go. They were in the space where they started capturing them, the space dragons, and try to convert them into, basically spaceships.
I think they had to capture like a baby dragon ship and then start cloning it, because the bigger dragons were just too dangerous. But I'm trying to think, because I don't have the SSD in front of me, but if I recall correctly, the exoskeleton actually comes with the impulse engines, because I don't think the Brantodons have dilithium crystals, or they don't have the ability to build proper warp drive, like regular warp drive. So they couldn't become a full-fledged space power without the dragons. And actually, it's something similar, because the Mern, like the creature, the beings who control the Alunda host ships, their home system. Actually, they talked about this in a recent edition of Captain's Log, because it turns out that you know how, like, with metal ships, most standard metal ships like Federation or Nisron or whatever, they use like a certain range of things like dilithium crystals for the warp drive, and various metals and stuff, like other material to actually build the hull and sensors and so on. And when you get to X technology, they need new rarer materials to be able to create the X systems.
Right.
Well, it turns out that the space whales that are the wild Alunda, they actually eat those minerals. And so
geez.
The reason why there's so many of the whales that showed up in the Mirren home system is because that system actually has a higher concentration of the X materials than any other star system in known space. Which is, I'd be interested to see in the future, like in Federation and Empire terms, like, do you get a bonus of X technology points if you conquer that system? Because I think that actually did happen historically in like the Y210s. There's this new empire called the Achari who conquered the Alonda home space, but no one knows. There hasn't been said yet what kind of ships they use, or do they use X technology the way that we know it?
Mhm.
But yeah, so basically, that's kind of like that's one reason why no one really cared about the space whales, even in the alpha auction, because they do exist in alpha and omega. But in most places, they were just kind of left to themselves because they weren't harmful unless attacked, and they fed on these minerals that no one cared about. But then once X technology came, they figured out that well, in theory, you could follow the whales, and then once they start eating, then you know that they're at a source of X, the rare minerals you need for X technology. But in practice, I don't think anyone's really been able to figure out how to make that happen, like how to actually systemize that. So, but it is interesting to kind of think about the different layers that they've been able to cake into the how these various monsters or deep space life forms actually have a kind of an ecosystem in the universe. And I guess how that ecosystem can be disrupted by, creatures using metal hull starships to, get in their way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
actually.
it's a living universe too. So
Mhm.
instead of a static one. So
Actually, that brings up one quick question about the Brenthanons, because obviously, space dragons themselves need food, and the way they usually do it is they go and attack livestock and population centers on inhabited planets. Um, what do the Brenthanons do to feed these dragons? Is that ever
That is
mentioned?
actually one of the big problems that they have because basically when the Branthodons in peacetime, they have lower attrition rates. So they can basically decide, because the Branthodons have these uh, enzymes or some sort of, I don't know how to phrase it, but like basically they can inject the space the dragon ships rather, with these growth suppressants. So say, for example, if they only have so many planets that produce only so much food, then they can't afford to let all of their dragons continue to grow naturally, because when they do that, they start running out of food to feed them. And so they basically, there's many different tiers of dragon ship that what they'll basically do is that once the ship reaches that level, they'll continuously apply growth suppressants so that the creature is stuck at that level. But if they're very careful over about a 10-year period, because it actually, in the Omega Master Rulebook, it actually shows like a section where it tells you how many years it takes to grow each type of dragon ship. I think it takes about 10 years to grow an ancient ship. But once you've got it, and then the next time the next war breaks out, then in theory, you could use your dragons to raid enemy, i.e. Alunda, planets in order to try to feed them. But once the Alunda start killing your ships, then it's not like the Nisrons or the Federation or whatever can just build another dreadnought if they have the economic points. The Branthanons can't do that. They have to wait another 10 years to grow another ancient dragon ship.
Right.
And so in wartime, the Branthanons basically end up with the reverse ratio that they have at peacetime. The proportion of younger dragon ships, the ones that really cloned more quickly, grows significantly. But then as the attrition gets higher, and as their larger dragon ships get targeted for destruction, then the heavier weight classes start going down significantly. And that actually was a major problem for them as well. And also, the Branthanons don't have shields, and they don't really have any means of building space-based installations. So, and also, because you think about it, their technology is mostly either cybernetic or natural to the dragon.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't build defense satellites either. So if they're building a base, all their bases have to be on planets, and
Right.
they have to have armor because they can't be shielded. So defensively, they're in big trouble. So if a rival empire is able to basically withstand the initial onslaught, then if they start pushing back, then yeah, basically they start running into some serious issues. And actually, that they did end up basically getting wiped out by the Alunda, because the Alunda have problems with logistics themselves, because they can't build regular bases either. They have to basically. So what they do is that. So you know how if you look on Shapeways and you see the shape of shape on Shapeways, if you see the structure of a space whale, it's got like the big head, and it's got like a thin neck, and then it's got like the secondary hole or the body, so to speak. So what the Alunda do is they clone a headless version of the creature, and they basically use that body as the base. So, so like, if you can just imagine that, because they wanted to make sure that the quote-unquote creature was sedentary. So, but of course, the creature can only grow so big, so they can't build bases that big either, which is, of course, a problem for them when someone else shows up. But yeah, it's basically, it's interesting how both of the biological empires have these like logistical problems baked in, but that's part of the historical flavor of them, because it's part of basically what makes them what they are, in terms of whether or not you want to play them, like in game terms.
Understood. Yeah. Wow. Definitely presents an issue because of this. Oh, geez. So there's, for the most part, the Branthodons were never can never be an attacking force. Only can be a defensive force overall. At least that's the way I see it, because of unlike a normal metal based starships, you don't have to wait years. You have to. A ship might take you a year or two to build, but versus a decade for the Branthodons, to have the same size, ability, the same size ship, so definitely.
Well, historically they were quite aggressive. So, but it's just a case of they basically kind of felt compelled to expand aggressively because they needed those new planets so that they could feed their fleet, basically. But one other thing that's interesting is that both they and the Alunda actually use, because that's one thing that when space dragons were first created for Starfleet battles, that was it basically. But eventually there's the concept of parasite creatures. Basically, kind of like how like there's some whales and big sharks and stuff that have like smaller creatures hanging off them,
Yeah, I think remore.
Feeding off the bacteria that grows on them or whatever. Yeah. So the Alunda have these remora creatures that attach to their bioships, and they turn them into fighters. And then the Branthodons have these wyvern creatures, and they convert them into fighters. So there is still an organic component to their attrition unit tactics as well. So,
Wow.
But yeah, it's kind of interesting to see. Again, with the whole idea of there being kind of like an ecosystem, because the wyverns exist naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Although I don't know whether or not I don't think there's ever been like a monster art scenario that actually, because there is a monster scenario for mechanical fighters, the Star Swarm, but I don't believe there's ever been a monster scenario for the wyverns as they exist naturally. So, like, independently of the host creature.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be interesting, actually, one day to see what would, like, if you had like a fighter squadron, and if you were to create a scenario where there's like a flock of these creatures causing trouble, how would that be different to when they're being used like as fighters by the Branthodons or Alunda?
Agreed. Yeah, because the creatures are dependent on the dragons to begin with, so it's hard to imagine them not having some dragons, you know, in the scenario itself, you know. But you know,
Because I think the other thing too is I believe that the Branthodons, they actually engineered the Wyverns to have particle phasers. So I don't recall whether or not the wild Wyverns have a natural weapon system. Because if they don't, then I guess that makes it less likely that they'd be interesting, unless there's like some sort of way that you could have it that they latch on to a ship or something. But
right?
I don't know. I mean, well, in theory, I mean, you could basically have an entirely new creature that's the size of a fighter that is an independent biological deep space life form, and you could give it some sort of means by which it can affect metal ships or affect inhabited planets.
I'm sorry, I was thinking about space gerbils.
Yar.
Because I'm not sure, Gary, have you ever had a gerbil or a hamster? You know, but usually they have in their little aquariums or cages, they have usually a little water thing where it has a little ball on the end. So what they'll do is they'll lick it to actually feed, to actually get the water. And I'm just imagining that you have a ship that has something like that, and the creature actually feeds from is kind of its mother kind of thing. But that's how you feed it, is you actually have the ship running around, and it feeds the space creature. That's why I thought about the space gerbil.
Alrighty then.
Oh, and one other thing that's interesting is I think this is true for live dragons too, but it is actually technically possible for the soldier to feed off the life force of space dragons and Branthodon ships. It's just that it takes a long time for the damage to be done, but also I guess if it's a live dragon, any kind of like innate sense that the creature has of attacking shuttles that are within a facility, that might make it difficult to actually get the shard to attach to the dragon in the first place.
Yeah. Because of it's basically a shuttle, so it's got a 5-6 chance of killing any shard. That would try to would get close enough to the dragon.
Yeah, because you think about it, like if you're chasing after a dragon ship, because against metal ships, the soldier has a unique damage allocation chart, because basically their dark energy or dark matter weapons, like they don't do damage against hull or something like that, because they want to keep the crew alive so they can feast on them. You can still destroy ships if you hit enough frame boxes, but there's basically certain quirks about how it works. But against biological ships, that might be problematic, because if the creature is still alive enough to be able to ward off your shards, then you're not getting the benefit of being able to absorb the life force anyway, because you can't. There's no other means of absorbing life energy without the shard vampirism. So I think it's easier for them to do it against the Branthodon ships, because I guess once you kill the crew,
right,
the dragon ship is, because it's been lobotomized, it doesn't have that self-preservation ability in the same way.
Right.
So you could, take your time in terms of trying to drain it of life. But live dragons might be trickier though, which is good for the dragon, of course.
Right. Which actually, to me, that makes an interesting scenario in my mind. Is if in that fight with what they're called?
The soldier.
Soldier. Thank you. With the soldier, if a Brathnon ship went wild, that'd be, in my mind, that'd be interesting. Because that'd be the
Well,
one.
the thing about the wild breath, the rogue dragon ships rather. I don't believe that they can actually use any of the exoskeleton stuff, but they can't remove it either. So they're still limited in terms of their mobility compared to a free dragon.
Right. Oh, agreed. Though I would, since my one question, my understanding is that those external parts they're strapped on. They're not actually physically attached to the creature. As in like drilled into the creature's bones or anything like that. Correct?
So on the SSD, the exoskeleton is shown as a composite object, and then the parts of the dragon are kind of like around it. Mm-hmm. But in universe, the exoskeleton is actually a series of cybernetically modified kind of like things that are physically attached to the scales that are along the dragon's spine. So it's like, I guess depending on how big a dragon you have, you might have between like 4 or 5 or 6 individual components that are together compose the exoskeleton. And I guess they also have to. I think there's some sort of rule that they have where, depending on how the dragon moves, because a free dragon, basically, it moves its back, like its spine, and it's kind of like it can. That's one of the reasons why it's so agile, because it has no restriction. It doesn't have that restriction like stuck onto it. But the dragon ships, there's like a limitation in terms of how I think it's something to do with. I can't remember if it's like if you're using evasive maneuvers or erratic maneuvers or something. It's like the plates are moving too fast, and certain systems like transporters can't lock on properly. So like basically you can't like access that system or have a guy beamed onto your ship or whatever, because the plates are in motion too much. But I suppose it'd be interesting to think about it like in universe, like how do the Branthadons actually transfer their crews from one plate to another if the creature is maneuvering erratically? Like they basically have to wait until the dragon calms down, and then have they got some sort of like tunnels or something that they can basically have the crew member pass from one plate to another. So I don't know if because again I don't have the PDF in front of me, but I'd be curious to see how they handle that. Like how do they actually handle operating the dragon ship, even just because it's not just one particular object. It's basically broken up into these smaller components.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Sorry, I'm reading the scenario called Mating Frenzy. And it basically says space dragons occasionally mate, and these are spectacular sights. Sometimes ships stumble on the mating rituals and try to break them up so that fewer space dragons can be hatched. Yeah. Victory conditions.
I think this is quite the appropriate topic for the Valentine's Day week, personally.
And the victory conditions are the fleet has modified victory conditions, treating all the space dragons as enemies. A space dragon is damaged if quarter or more of the body part is destroyed, crippled half or more, and the fleet scores 200-point bonus if the female does not mate or mates do not survive the scenario. The male dragons also have a modified victory conditions. A male dragon scores 300 points bonus if he mates and the female then disengages. Each of the males lose 150 points if the female dies. The female of Straits Dragon wins if she mates and then disengages. She scores a draw if she survives but does not mate, and she loses if she does not survive. So, interesting. It takes 4 players to play.
Yeah, I gotta wrangle those suckers in there somehow.
Yep.
Oh wait. Yeah.
So brings the whole idea of meeting role playing in a whole new way.
Yep, agreed there. Oh, I gotta love this. Fleet tactics. Neotholians and Tholians with webcaster refits have a tremendous advantage in this scenario. Duh. As their webcasters can keep the dragons basically physically apart, and as such should not be used.
Oh no, I'm stuck in this web. It would be horrible if some male dragon found me. Wink, wink.
Yeah. Oh god, gotta love this. One of the tactics for the male dragons: get the other male to attack the fleet, then go rendezvous with the female. If that doesn't work, try to arrange a concentrated 3 dragon attack on the ships, and then attack the other male and eliminate him. And of course, the female, avoid close contact with the fleet. Big surprise. In a 3 dragon attack, you want to remain behind the males, fire only at the ship that gets past them, and then turn and run. Avoid taking damage as this will slow you down. Watch the enemy weapon farming cycle. Try to rendezvous at the end of the firing turn so you can mate while they are reloading.
Good lord.
And there's actually playtester's comment here which says, this is a very amusing scenario. Careful diplomacy must be used by the fleet player and by both Asian dragons, and diplomacy in this instance comes from mouths of guns. Yeah. That sounds like an interesting scenario. Because of, in my mind, you got two ancient space dragons which have to cooperate to a certain degree because they want to mate with the female. And you need to kind of protect her and also kind of destroy the fleet. But at the same time, you want to destroy the other opponent. But if you destroy the other dragon, the other ancient dragon, the other male, then you're going to have an issue with the fleet because you'll probably die before you actually can mate with the female dragon.
Hey, buddy, why don't we go talk to this fleet together?
Right.
I'll be right there with you.
Right. The only part of
behind you.
Right, there's only one player who doesn't have any say in this whole thing, in any diplomacy whatsoever, and that is, of course, the person flying the fleet. Because, all the dragons want you dead. Plain and simple. They want to get it on, and they want you dead.
So. You are a snack in a can.
You're going to have to put a content warning for this podcast, Paul.
Hey, I did not use any bad language. Now, my parents, if you're leaving this with your children, that would be interesting. Then obviously,
I think you're safe, Paul.
Yeah, you can, if you want to, you can describe what that is. Probably not, but it's up to you. You're the parent. So, anyhow, it's getting late. I think we will end here. It was fun talking about space dragons, and obviously we talked a lot about the Brathodons. And
make sure you include dragons mating in space, SFB, as part of your search terms in this one. So. Oh, plug.
Yeah.
Gamers of Weekend. Gamers of Winter is this weekend.
Yep.
And Paul is committed to running the Captain's Game, Frigate Edition. Slightly truncated, so you can finish it in 2 days or 1 day of the 2 days. That's basically it's Saturday and Sunday of our 3-day convention. So, Harrisburg, PA, if you are reasonably close, gamersofwinter.net. Also, Gamers of South Central PA on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
You can get badges at the door. You don't have to pre-register. Pre-registration's been closed. And we finished the badges today from that, so there's that.
Awesome.
Yay. So,
Okay. Cool.
see you Saturday morning, Paul.
Yep.
If you want to come here on the way there, that's fine too. So we can talk about that later if you want.
Yeah.
That was my plug. Yay, plug.
Yay, plug. Oh, Gary, it's wonderful having you around. You have a good night.
Thank you. Although, just before we go, do you know if Barry's going to be there?
Yeah, she'll be here Sunday and Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So then you could bring your copy of Module C6 and the captain's logs that have the various Zosman, Marauder, and Parabian stuff, and let him, have a chat with them about it if you have some time.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I've got the ebook copy, so I can read it whenever I want. I'll be bringing my iPad along with me.
Okay. Do you have the PDFs of CL50 and 52 as well?
I gotta check on that. Because if CL52 is out in ebook form, yeah, I probably do.
Yeah, 50 and 52 have the Zosman rules and SSDs. 54, which is still paper only, has the anti-proton variant Parabians. So, and then of course there's Module C6 has the regular Conaway torpedo Parabians.
Mm-hmm. That reminds me, I can't wait for Double Nickel to come out. But anyhow, that's a topic. Yeah, that's a topic for another day, and I'm not gonna bring up the thought I just had in my head. So anyway, have a good night.
Have a night.
Doug.
Yay.
I'll get to see you on Saturday.
Uh-huh.
One way or the other.
Hey, if you want to come here early, we can talk and head over together.
Probably not, just because of I have to run errands beforehand.
Okay. But remember, doors open at 10.
Will do.
Plan on being there a little before that. And then, tomorrow night going over there and making sure the setup is done.
Mm-hmm.
So, yay.
Yay.
All
Okay.
right.
You have a good night.
Saturday. Thank you.
Okay.
You too.
I didn't know that. So, I thought we might get done with 2 tonight, and obviously, no, just focus on the Space Dragons, and actually got dragged into talking about Breathodons and also the Orlando, which are also quote unquote space monsters, but they're tamed to be controlled by other species. So, well, with that, I am Paul Franz, and I bid you a good night.